We're talking about 10 games to play with children over the festive season. This is Julian, and together we are Boxed Meeples, and in today's video we're going to be talking about 10 games that you can play with children over the festive season. Now, of course, you would have seen we've done 2 other children-based videos probably 6 months or so ago. One of which was for slightly older children, or children that are used to playing board games perhaps, and then the other one was for either younger ones or sort of beginners into the hobby. And these are 10 more games. Might be one little lap over, which we'll come to later, which might be fun and particularly good over this sort of festive period. We've tried not to go into the sort of 2-player games because we feel like often this is the time of year where more people are getting together. And we asked your children.
Yeah, so these have all been chosen by children. Mm-hmm. And the focus of these are to play as a family, you know, which is why we haven't included those 2-player kind of dual games, because we want to be, you know, suggest games that you can gather around. Doesn't matter if you play a lot of board games, doesn't matter if you're entirely new to them, that the family can play together. So we try to go for a range of ages. Obviously, children age at different speeds, and what might be appropriate for one child might not be appropriate for an older child. So we try to get a kind of complete cross-section of games that any children of any age can kind of play.
Yeah, I don't think there's any particularly difficult ones to pick up here. So if you've got people coming that don't normally play board games, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And we certainly do have games that say on the box from 3+ that a 13-year-old in this household really enjoys playing, because they're just fun games. So as you said, you know, we don't really always take that much notice of the age on there, but you know, it's there for you to look at if you feel it's helpful.
So without further ado, let's head straight into our first pick. Now, our one and only overlap on this list has featured on a previous list of children's games, but we're including it for a couple of reasons. Mm-hmm. 1, it's incredibly festive, and 2, there's a new version coming out. That's Hey, That's My Fish. So in this game, you are guiding penguins around a frozen ice field. As you move them to catch fish, wherever you just left is going to collapse into the sea because your penguin has been there and the weight has caused it to sink. You can move your penguins wherever you want on the map as long as you move in a straight direction, and the one who's caught the most fish at the end of the game will win. But interestingly, as you are moving around the board and as the ice is collapsing, you're going to create little islands of ice, potentially trapping your opponents and then limiting what fish they can get.
That's the tactic I like to go down. Leave someone stranded on an island where there's only so much more fish to catch.
So you have seen this in earlier videos, but the reason we're including this one is because there's a brand new version coming out, which kind of gives a lot of kind of improvements just in the kind of setting up and getting going. Really adorable new figures for this one, new meeple, or miniatures really, and also a grid in which you can place your tiles to set up super quickly. So yeah, this is the new version we're going to be getting and adding to our collection because it has been a often favourite in our household. But often players, easy to explain to new players, but quick to play once you know it, and surprisingly tactical. So even with adults who've played this game, you've had a great time.
Yeah, adults and children alike, which probably is the majority of these games on this list, to be fair. They're suitable for children and also for adults. So the second on the list is My Gold Mine. Now, we have discussed this one a few times. You laying out your cards. Your dwarves are there trying to mine the gold, but there's a dragon at the end coming towards you with its fiery breath, trying to burn everything down before you can run out of the cave. And what's fun about this game is that the stack of cards, which is giving you the resources and your choices in terms of movement, are you gaining more gold but then having to dive deeper into that cavern, or are you sort of choosing to run away, etc. Though the pile of cards that are giving you the gold also have the dragon cards in them, and they're face up, which is really interesting, because when you then take a card that has, you know, maybe just 1 coin on it, you're staying where you are and everything's fine, underneath it, if there's a dragon, that's when the dragon's moving. And there could be more than one dragon card up right there. So the dragon sometimes can come barreling down and burn everyone alive, which is where this game just gets so fun. And so just so much hilarity around the table, and so much sort of, oh, you're going to need an exit card and all this sort of thing. And even the exit cards are fun. You know, there's one in there where you've obviously picked it up because you're worried that you're going to get burnt by this dragon. But there's one that teases you. Do you want 3 gold, or do you actually want to exit? You know, how much do you want to exit? And it's cards like that in the game that just add the banter around the table and the chat and the, oh no, I've burnt again. You know, all of that kind of stuff that just makes this game super, super fun. It's a tiny small box, so you can take it to friends and family if you're visiting over the festive period really easily. And it plays up to 6, which I think is good. And it's just a lot of fun. And you can actually, we've played it before when there was lots of us and someone else is sort of almost commentating and doing the card unveiling, which is sometimes just as fun as actually having a token and being in the thick of it. So if there is an extra one person, give them a roll.
I mean, in these kind of push your luck games, often it can get a bit malicious. You know, I'm going to do this, which is going to kill everyone. But what's great is, as the cards are revealed, you're not making a conscious decision about moving the dragon down. It's a result of what the deck is saying. So it's never really your fault if everyone else gets eaten. It's their fault being too greedy.
Exactly.
Next up, we've got an oldie but a goodie, Forbidden Island. Now, this is designed by Matt Leacock, who most people will know from the Pandemic series. And this kind of family-friendly game has a more kind of palatable theme now, with obviously recent events making the Pandemic series less bizarre. Has a lot of the kind of mechanisms you would see in those series of games, distilled down to family-friendly mode. This is a co-op game where you're trying to escape an island by grabbing the idols and getting to a helicopter in the centre of the island and escaping. And you do have to work together because each of you have got your own set of skills which are going to help you on your fleeing and on your island excavation and escape. However, as you move around the board, the island's getting smaller and smaller and smaller as bits of the island, again, are sinking into the water. There's a bit of a theme of the games I'm talking about here. So you do have to work together, and there's a lot of kind of communication that goes on with, you do that, so I can then do that on my turn, and then you can do that once I've done that. Which allows for a certain amount of more experienced people to guide newer players through the game. But with all co-op games, the beauty of it is that you all win or you all lose. So there's never a case of finger pointing at the end where someone's made a bad decision, because you're kind of collectively working on how best to do it as a team. A lovely production, really good. Quick
the
setup.
tin is lovely. Instead of a box, it's in this nice sort of tin sort of thing. That's cool.
Quick to set up, quick to get going, and quite a quick game to play. And if you enjoy Forbidden Island, there's 2 more Forbidden games that follow on in this series, each of slightly different mechanics, but all of which are family friendly and really accessible. So yeah, if you like that kind of Indiana Jones style, adventuring style game, this might be a one to introduce your family at Christmas.
Yeah, and I think that suits slightly younger children. And we did have on the previous lists the Star Wars Clone Wars, the Pandemic system one, which has some similarities, some crossover, but you can see where the sort of Forbidden Island sort of has come from, and then those Pandemics has gone into that, but they're not so similar that you couldn't have them both. But I would suggest, as we did suggest in our other video, that the Clone Wars be slightly older children, whereas I think that you can get away with younger children or non-gamers for Forbidden Island, which is why it's on this list. Next up is a game that we just started playing in the last few months and are sort of in love with this whole range of Itten games. And this one is Viking Seesaw. I mean, as we said earlier, this game is very much, a lot of these games you can definitely play with adults. This one you 100% can, but it also works really well with children. Now, it does play up to 4, and basically you have your Viking ship and you're trying not to tilt it the other way. You each have these sort of, they're like hairbands where you keep your little storage of all your little items. Everything's a different shape, a different weight, and you're having to place pieces onto the Viking ship and hope that it doesn't tilt, otherwise you're going to have to take the resources from the middle, the sort of treasure chests from the middle, and the first person to get rid of all of their little bits of treasures in their storage area onto the boat is the winner. Or of course, if all the treasure chests are gone, then it's the person who has the least left in their store area. And it's just so fun because you're stacking up these different weighted things and different, trying to get them to sit on top of each other without all sliding to the middle. You kind of trying to place something so delicately so it doesn't sort of thump on the edge of it and just sort of tip everything. If things fall out of the boat, then apart from the one that you were trying to place, the rest of them are having to come to your area. So you're trying to really make sure that you're delicate and careful so you don't have a huge spillage on the table on your turn. But of course, all of these things happen, and during that, it is really, really fun. And it's such a quick game that, I mean, we often play each of us starts once, so we play 4 games of it in a round and then sort of see who's the winner from there, because it's so quick and easy to game. And again, a very small box that's very portable and easy to take places. So Itten games, I think, is going to be something that we're going to be collecting more and more of until we've got the whole series of them. But this one's certainly going to be hit on the table at Christmas.
And what's great about this, good for children. Actually, children have a bit of an advantage in these kind of dexterity games because their nimble little fingers make placing certain objects on a Viking longboat that seems to be tipping up and down much, much easier. So yeah, children do have a bit of a leg up in these style of games. The next game that was chosen for us by the children was Risky Rink. Now, this might also be known as Penguin Peril. There's lots of variations
There's quite a few variations, yeah.
But basically, it's a raised platform of ice cubes as you're moving a character around the board, and then you take your hammer and you have to hammer out a certain colour of cube or a certain combination of cubes. And obviously, as you are battering out these hexagonal kind of parts of the board, the rigidity of the whole board itself comes into question, eventually will collapse once enough has moved around. Very, very easy for very young children to play.
Yeah.
We play it with kind of the rules almost taken from Hey That's My Fish, where at the end of your turn you can then move the character you're trying to protect to a different area of the board to obviously make it harder for your next player. And we find that just adds a bit of kind of gameplay to it. But essentially, yes, a very quick game where you're battering a bit of an island, an ice island, and trying to save a penguin or a dog in our case, or a fox. So there's lots of variations of this, but it's a fun, quick, easy to explain game.
Yeah, I'm sure it says 3+ on the box, so certainly one if you have younger people that like to do the bashing, whether they follow the rules or not. It's Christmas, who cares, right?
Just have some fun.
Next up on the list is Deep Sea Adventure. This is an Oink game, and you are going down in a submarine searching for treasure again, much like my gold mine. All we want is treasure at Christmas, it seems. And the problem with that is that once you start carrying your treasure and trying to get it back up, you're using so much more air. And the tricky thing with this game is getting back before all the air from the submarine runs out. And I love how the deeper that you go, the better the treasure is. So you really are pushing your luck to see what you can come back with. But how much do you choose to carry? Do you end up dropping some partway through to try and get back there? Of course, at the beginning of the game, all you're rolling is 5s and 6s, and you're diving down deep super quick. The moment you turn around to come back and are in a panic, all you can roll is 1s and 2s, and you're thinking, I just need to roll a 4 or above to get back to the submarine, and you can't. But it's super fun. I love the way you can climb over your opponent, so if people are in your way, that really helps in order to get to different places.
It's a proper push your luck game. You know,
it really is.
You can potentially win just by being on the surface, not going too deep. But yeah, obviously bravery yields rewards, and it's a game that plays better with the more players that are playing, because then you can start doing the big leaps. It's always the case when you do lists that the games you've most recently played you always include on the list, and that's exactly what's happened here. We've had Fiesta added to this list of ideal games for children because my children have recently played that at a convention. But regardless of that, it's still a really fun game. We've all seen that old Pixar film for the birds, where you have a load of birds on a wire, and eventually that wire is going to sag in the middle, ping, and all the birds are going to fly off. And someone's made a game of that. It's split into two halves. The first half, you're trying to complete bird selfies by meeting the objectives that are on the card. Often that'll be a case of have a blue bird in the middle of two other birds, or it could be have birds with tufty hair near to the edges of the telephone wire.
Yeah.
There's a range of different complexities there, and the different complexities, so the more complex ones, yield bigger points.
Of course they do.
But are much harder to do. So then you have that kind of decision of, once you've completed the selfie, how complicated am I going to take the next one? Because once all the cards have been taken, then that is the end of the first phase. And if there's no cards to draw, everyone has just one more turn. But then you shift into the fun bit. That's when you start pinging birds. Because...
And that's why this game has ended up on this list. This is why the girls have chosen it, because they had a lot of fun pinging on the birds.
It's very simple. You take it in turns. So the next player to go will go first. You pull down one of the birds and you ping off the wire. And ideally, you want one bird to stay there because you get a bonus point. And it's kind of a nice flourish at the end of the game because you put all the birds out onto the wires. Then you have this kind of explosion of birds all over the room.
Yeah, and they're so colourful and pretty that it's like this sort of firework kind of going off of these different sized and shaped and coloured birds. Yeah,
it's got an amazing table presence, really quick to set up, and and we've had so many people when we're playing it at a convention come over and go, "What game is this? Can we play it next?" And that's always a sign of you might look at it and go, "This is silly fun," but sometimes that's just great to be playing at a festive time.
Next up on the list is one that, I thought in my head it was a Christmas theme, but it's not actually, it's just fairy tale. It's Mickey and the Beanstalk.
I suppose, yeah. So we had a debate about whether this counts as... We have pantos in the UK, which are often based on old kind of fairy tales. They're very silly. There's a lot of traditions involved in those. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense to people outside of the UK. It's a very British thing. But often that's Jack and the Beanstalk as a focus that. And in this, you're eating turkey. So I think Christmassy.
Yeah, and also the box is that like Christmas green colour. So I think maybe that's why in my head I thought it was a Christmas themed game, but technically a fairy tale Disney game.
Yeah.
And this one is from quite a young age as well. I think it might even be 3 or something.
I think so, yeah.
And you're on the top, and obviously the giant is up there. You've climbed up the beanstalk and you're trying to gather and steal all these resources from him and take them back down again before he catches you. Which is super fun, and you're kind of going around, and the things that you need to collect is you're collecting it as a group, but obviously you're each taking your own turn to go and do that. But this game just has such great table presence, which I think is why they've put it on the list.
Yeah.
And it's so fun when you're going from up there, up with the giant in the clouds, to go back down the beanstalk. You attach your character and he swirls around, and there he is at the bottom, and that's just such a fun moment for kids. And adults.
It's a very simple game to play. It's one of those games where you'd have to try hard to lose.
So the last time we played, you actually had really bad luck. I think you must have had 5 bad turns in a row.
Yeah, the luck was not on my side.
No, but we still did manage to win. So I think, especially with younger children that do enjoy winning still and are playing to win rather than are playing for the enjoyment of the game, and especially younger ones as well. As we said, this is very suitable for younger children. This is a good one because I think the chances of you losing are that little bit lower than...
Yeah, and what it does do is it introduces for a very young player mechanics that are in bigger games. So you're learning with this set collection, you're learning pick up and deliver. So yeah, you have to kind of look for those in this game, but you can see the kind of foreshadowing of more complicated mechanisms, which will put them in good stead for playing more complicated games. And like all of these Disney games, always look fantastic. Such a great table presence in this one.
Yeah, it looks great, and obviously having Mickey Mouse on the box does add a great appeal to maybe a child who hasn't played a lot of board games before, and will get them engaged into giving it a go and seeing what it's all about, especially with the beanstalk action. So yeah, it's a good one. Next up, we've had chosen for us Andor family. Now this is a big game.
It's based on the popular Andor series, but obviously distilled down to be family friendly. And it introduces a lot of kind of adventure elements, obviously playing on the traditional fantasy tropes. Everyone's, there's a dwarf in there, there's a warrior in there, there's an archer in there, there's a magician in there, or a mage. But you're going out to complete individual scenario quests, 2 of those, and once you've completed those, you can then go and try and rescue some wolf pups.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a wolf pup, right?
And you really have to work together as bits of the board are revealed. Certain conditions on the maps will change each time. So it introduces a lot of those kind of elements you will see in much more complicated, arguably more grown-up games, to a really great family audience. Has a beautiful aesthetic that really immediately makes it engaging.
Yeah, Michael Menzel artwork on there is lovely.
It's really lovely. And it's got several scenarios in the campaign. But once you've done that, you can kind of mix and match the objectives to give the game a sense of longevity. And also, very excitingly, there's a expansion coming out.
Literally just come out last week, I think. Yeah.
So that's going to add a different player type to the game, and a new end quest bit with new objectives as you go as well, which then will extend the game even further. But it's the right duration of game to play sitting around a table. You can get through one of the scenarios in less than an hour. Not excessively difficult, so you're more than likely going to succeed, but it does depend on the luck of turning.
Yeah, that dragon can come towards town quickly.
It's another game where a dragon can sneak up on you and take you unawares. But we've had such a great time playing this, and again, cooperative, so you do feel like you're collectively achieving this. This has had the biggest kind of standout cheering moments we've had probably this year playing as a family.
Yeah.
Where we thought we were on the cusp of losing, but then somehow, miraculously, the dice worked in our favour, the tokens were revealed in the right way, and we were victorious. And it's always fantastic to kind of feel that euphoria as a family and a collective sense of achievement, and you get that so much in the Andor family game.
Yeah, and it's really lovely for us to watch them go, well, no, hold on, I'll do that because my ability allows me to do that better than you do. But then if you go and do that, and you can see the cogs turning and how they maximise the gameplay for each sort of minorly asymmetric character in terms of what they're able to do, and you can see them working that puzzle well, and that's a really nice moment for us to see that. Lastly on the list is a bit of Christmas fun. We've gone for Chippendale's Christmas Treasures by Funko Games. It's 5+ and it does again play to 6 players, so it's nice if there is a few of you around the room. This one, you have these cards set up like a Christmas tree. Of course, it's very festive, and there's different goal cards which might change each round, and you're trying to sort of turn different cards over and set collect and gain different points for different maybe pairs that you're gathering. Obviously the event conditions change what's happening between there, but it just is quick, it's fast, it's the artwork's fun, and it feels festive. You've got that nice sort of Christmas tree, you can play it on a coffee table sat around a fire, and it's just a little bit of family fun.
Those moments around Christmas time where things get a bit tetchy, people are waiting for something, or there's a downtime, you can just say, look, gather round, let's play a quick, simple, easy game. And it's fun, accessible. And Funko have done a great range of these kind of smaller card games recently. They're all kind of themed around Christmas. You've had various versions of the Christmas Carol. There's a Mickey one in there, there's a Muppets one in there. And they're all relatively cheap, all quick to play, and all kind of just simple, easy, fun, festive, family fun. So I don't think you can go wrong with those.
No, you definitely can't. And again, you don't need to be a gamer to play these kinds of games, which is the sort of part of our criteria. So that has been our 10 games to play with children over the festive period, and we would love to hear from you if you have extra suggestions.
Yeah, let our little pickers know which games they should be picking from next for us to all play. But yeah, it's always great to kind of gather around and experience these kind of games together. So if there's any games you suggest that are very festive, That'll work well as a family of gamers and non-gamers, different age groups. Let us know in the comments down below.
And don't forget, if you want more suggestions, we do have the other 2 videos which we will link to in the description, one for older children and one for younger children that we've done previously. So if you need more suggestions, go click and have a little watch of those too.
And obviously, if you're looking for buying board games for Christmas gifts maybe, or just to have over the festive period, your best place to look is your friendly local game store. And for us down in the southeast of England, that is of course Chaos Cards.
It is indeed.
Pop into their shop. Lots of Christmas events planned if you are in the area of Chaos Cards throughout the kind of Christmas holidays to do with children. So it may be worth popping in there, not just to get board games, but to engage in some of their Christmas events.
Yes, I think we're hoping to decorate some baubles at some point.
We shall be going in there over, so might even see us in there. But don't worry if you're not near Chaos Cards in the southeast of England, because they have a fantastic website. If you're on there quickly, you can get some great deals at the moment. But you can always get 5% off a £35 purchase by using the discount code listed below. Keep an eye on that. That often changes, so make sure you're using the most up-to-date one of those.
And of course, if you haven't come across us before, I'm Libby, this is Julian, the channel is BoxedMeeples, and we would really love it if you would subscribe and like and ring the bell for the channel.
Ring the festive bell.
Festive bells for the channel, please.
But as always, thank you so much for watching.
Bye.